Hello, hello, welcome back to Let's Talk Ray Bradbury. If you have not subscribed to our channel, please do. So as you probably know by now, here in Let's Talk Ray Bradbury, I'm reviewing the short story collection by Ray Bradbury, Bradbury's Stories. It features 100 stories. We've got down to number 86 of that collection before we will move on to another project. I think I'm doing Clive Barker next, so please stand by for that. Almost the End of the World, published December 26, 1957, originally. It's about two old miners, Willie Bersinger and Samuel Fitz. They're driving into town, talking. They've just spent a month or more out on their claim. They need to get a good shave and to get cleaned up, and they're looking forward to telling their stories of the solitude of the wilderness and their experiences out there to the men at the local barbershop. But as they get into town, they begin to immediately notice that something is up. Everything is clean, freshly painted, lawns mowed, weeds pulled, nothing is out of place. The one guy actually throws a candy wrapper out the window, and immediately somebody rushes out with a broom and dustpan to pick it up. They soon learn at the local barbershop that the apocalypse has nearly come. The radios and the televisions have been knocked out by a solar storm, and that these solar storms will continue for the foreseeable future, possibly through their entire lifetimes. What they learned happened is after a few days, people became so ungodly bored and disturbed by the silence that they just had to start doing things. It began with a woman. She picked up a paintbrush and a bucket of paint and went out and started painting things, but soon everybody was cleaning and fixing and repairing and turning the world into a sort of a little creepy little utopia. I'm kind of picturing the idea of those fake towns that they built for nuclear testing sites. It sort of gives me that vibe. Also, maybe the vibe of Pleasantville, if you remember that movie. Anyhow, without anything to do in front of the television, without any radio, people began improving their lives and improving their communities again. People even learned to play instruments that they always wanted to but didn't get around to. They performed concerts, they put on shows, they went out and socialized and had parties and did all the things that have lost when we've become more of an inside culture. But because of all of this, sort of this fear of silence, Sam and Willie's stories of the wilderness are no longer appropriate, and so they leave town and they plan on sort of traveling the region, and they want to see Chicago. Imagine Chicago cleaned up, they think, and that's sort of the end of the story. It's a very interesting take on the apocalypse. Nobody dead, nobody injured, everybody's just bored and forced to occupy their time in some other way. Obviously, in reality, sudden loss of all communication would probably be a disaster, at least to our world today. Probably could have got by without it. In the 50s still, maybe, but it'd be close. I think with the computer age especially, we've sort of almost gone to the point of no return, where it'd be very hard to go back to a world without it. So ever present in Bradbury's stories is communism. You know, he was writing a lot of his stuff during the Cold War, especially his 50s, 60s output. And there's a vibe of this here. I think there's a fear of conformity in American society, especially in capitalist societies. And this sort of utopian look to things sort of speaks to that a little bit. But also, on the other side of things, there is this idea that in our capitalist society with sort of excesses and things like that, we sometimes get caught up, buying new things that we're not taking care of the things that we have, and towns fall down around us because of the money moving to other places, and there's sort of that vibe too. So it sort of walks the line between these two sort of worldviews. In actuality, neither of these worldviews is really capable of providing what it claims to provide. People are always left out in a capitalist society, and then the communist utopia idea never panned out. It's always sort of usurped by corruption and that like. So it's interesting how you can see both of those things, both of those worldviews in this same story. And for that reason, you know, it's almost a scary story, but it's also, I think, a hopeful story that there is going back. You know, right now we're enamored of our cell phones and always having access to information. We're constantly being bombarded by it. But I think there is a breaking point, and I think that, and we see it with individuals already, but I think there'll be a point where we learn to live more fully with technology and not letting it overwhelm us and overtake us. And those battles are being fought right now, concerns over privacy and sort of addictions to the screens. And there's certainly people out there who are unplugging, but unplugging completely is not the answer as well. So I think it's going to be very interesting to see in the coming century, hopefully I'll make another century, how we deal with the technology. When the story was written, it was just radio and television. Now there's so many other distractions, but I think we can find our way out of this. And that is why you read stories, because they do have wisdom. And Bradbury was ahead of his time once again with this story, Almost the End of the World from 1957. All right, so we'll be back with story number 87, just 13 more stories to go in a short time here, maybe tomorrow. Our next story is The Great Collision of Monday Last, so be sure to subscribe and tune in for that. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Give it a thumbs up even if you didn't like it. Just be supportive. You know, that's good. And if you have something positive to say, if you want to get some constructive conversation going on with your fellow subscribers, feel free to do that in the comment section. Of course, also share my videos and hang around and see what we have coming for you next. Yesterday, last video, Don did his latest edition of Let's Talk Spoop, his horror movie show. And I'm expecting new uploads from Jeremiah here as well. So right now we got 3 of us putting out as much stuff as we can for you, and we hope that you are enjoying it. So, see you later.